I was a little worried about going to see The Long Walk because I'm not really a fan of seeing people suffer. But then again, kind of like driving by a big car accident, I, like everyone else, can't resist looking. I'll be completely honest, if you'll be honest, that's why we watch this type of stuff, right? So that when I found out what The Long Walk was about, the grim curiosity that exists in all of us was the hook that got me interested. The Long Walk is directed by Francis Lawrence, who also directed Constantine, I Am Legend, and a number of the Hunger Games films. It's based on a novel by Stephen King, writing under his pseudonym Richard Bachman early in his writing career. The movie stars David Johnson, whom we previously saw on Alien Romulus, and Cooper Hoffman, son of the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman. Johnson and Hoffman are the standouts of this film, and they drive the narrative, despite there being a number of characters who play a part in the movie. And I must say that Johnson, just like he was in Alien Romulus, he gave that movie a reason to actually watch it. Same thing here. He's one of the strongest things about this movie. Ben Wong is another noted character who provides substantial emotion as well. But David Johnson runs the show. He plays Peter DeVries, and he is the heart of the movie, along with Hoffman playing Ray Garrity. The two of them form a bond, which is a central aspect of this film. Now, if you know me, I'm all about character development. Good writing and development is what allows me, and I believe most audiences, to get invested in a good story because we believe in the characters. They come across as real people, people that we want to identify with. But at a certain point, I come to a Stephen King movie because I want to see some horror. Kind of like when I sit down to watch a movie with the word Jurassic in it. Yeah, I want to see the characters first. I want them to be developed, but ultimately, I want to see motherfuckers getting eaten by dinosaurs. In this case, we have a movie where 50 young men are chosen for the long walk. The concept of the long walk is simple. You and 49 other people walk as far as it takes before you are the last person walking. And if you fall under 3 miles per hour as you walk, and you do that 3 times within an hour, well, you get your ticket pulled, which is a euphemism for you get a bullet in the head. Now, that's a grotesque but fascinating premise for a horror film. I want to see that to understand, why was this walk created? What led to it? Why would anyone want to participate? Well, the movie looks like it's set in a dystopian past, like an alternative universe. It looks like it's kind of in the 60s after some unknown war. It kind of is like what we saw in the Fantastic Four, like an alternate universe that was like in the 60s but still kind of modern. That's what it reminded me of to a certain degree in terms of the time period. The country, it looks like it's under totalitarian rule, and looks like they're going through another depression. And it's implied that the walk is a creation intended to bolster the spirits of the nation and provide opportunity for wealth in an economically depressed society. And these guys, they're young adults, and it looks like they're participating because there is little to no opportunity, and they are desperate for money to feed their families, to feed themselves. This is all great stuff, compelling stuff. But if we're being honest, this is nothing unique. We can go back as far as 1948 with the publishing of Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, to The Running Man, the classic 80s movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, and also another Stephen King property. We could go to the 2000 film Battle Royale, which I've never seen. I just don't know if I can bring myself to watch it since there are kids involved. But then that brings us to The Hunger Games, right? To that franchise. And to, in my opinion, the ultimate version of this theme, the 3 seasons of the enormously popular Squid Game. Now, with that history of dystopian content involving citizens engaged in deadly competition, I felt like this movie really needed to bring it because we've seen this done so well many times before. And this movie, to me, it seemed like it came out of nowhere with hardly any build-up, any buzz, or fanfare. It has a compelling first act with an appearance from Judy Greer, who sets the tone with her amazing performance as Ray's mom. She doesn't have a lot of screen time, but what she does with the time she has, it was really moving. She appears to be on the edge of a nervous collapse from her son's involvement in the walk. In the first 10 minutes, We get the standard trope of meeting a core group of people, each one representing a type. There's the bully, there's the idealist writing a novel, there's the smart mouth that nobody likes, there's the gay loner, etc. And as we meet these characters, you can't help but size them up, determining who's going to get their ticket punched, and you're like, yeah, he don't have a chance. Yeah, he's going early. It's like a Star Trek fan checking out the red shirts whenever they land on a planet, right? Some of these guys are obvious cannon fodder as well. We get a lot of pontification and philosophizing on life from these young men who come from these rural communities that you wouldn't expect to be able to speak with such maturity. We get a lot of this at the beginning of the movie, which is welcome as we learn about these characters. Like I said, we do want to see some development. But after a while, these young men really started to sound way overwritten. And ironically, I came to this movie thinking it was going to be difficult to watch. I mean, this movie comes out after, I said, like the 3 seasons of Squid Game, which was incredibly brutal. Well, to me, trying to follow that, this movie isn't brutal enough, in my opinion. There is a scene at the beginning of the second act, or somewhere in that, roughly that time period, that is grimly fascinating, where the young men have to walk up an incline during the first night. And they're already very tired, and it's just seeing them have to deal with that grueling obstacle that I think this film needed more of. It needed more scenes like that, where we see these walkers suffering from this competition. We do see walkers sleeping as they walk, being dragged along by other people. We see them defecating as they walk. We see them urinating while they walk because they're not allowed to slow down for any reason. And while this is gross, and it is pretty graphic, this is what the movie needed more of to keep me involved with the fact that, boy, this is really cruel. And I'll speak for myself when I say that. I just needed to see more stuff like that to show how, what was involved, what the stakes are, and what they really signed on to, and did they realize what they were really signing on to. Now, I'm not going to give anything away in terms of how far these guys have to walk or how many days they walked, but I will say that it's a long enough period of time that it was just implausible to see these guys still philosophizing and pontificating about life and love, as opposed to vomiting their guts out and crying as they walk on bloody stumps. It just didn't get far enough for me. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a couple of heart-stopping moments that involve death, and I'll just say that. But me being a more sensitive viewer, it wasn't enough for me. Maybe that's because I've been watching, maybe that's because I love Squid Game so much, and that was pretty hard to watch. This was child's play to me, and it shouldn't have been. Also, there are some reveals as the story progresses that I found to be eye-rolling, as if the writers felt they needed to throw in some manufactured drama. One of the reveals that I'm talking about has a major impact on the plot at the very end of the movie, but how it played out was unsatisfying and, to me, anticlimactic. I wanted to see relationships fray, bonds get broken, as the walk becomes more grueling. I just didn't buy that Ray and Pete's bond that they established pretty early on in the first act, that it never gets challenged in the least. And I will tell you this, I started reading the book because this movie did get me interested enough in the theme to check out the book. And I will say that Ray and Pete in the book are not like they are in the movie. But yeah, that ending, it's such an understatement to say it was anticlimactic, where certain characters do a 180-degree turn from everything they had been built up to be throughout the film. In short, character development is great, but unlike Squid Game, where brutality was deftly and cleverly interwoven with character. Now, the 3rd season was a little off, I think, maybe because they had run out of creativity. But overall, that series balanced it very well. There was enough character development, but there was enough graphic content, which is one of the reasons we come to see something like that, given what we know is going to happen. Like, it's a competition where people get killed. Well, if you're watching that, that's because that appeals to you. And I think that's normal. I think that's fine. But this movie gives us character overdevelopment and not enough brutality. given what the theme of the movie is, what The Long Walk is all about. Now, don't get me wrong, again, there are difficult moments, but they're fleeting. And I should also say, I will mention that I simply cannot take Mark Hamill seriously when he tries to play the villain. Unless he's voicing the Joker, I can't take him seriously as a live-action villain.
Who's ready to win?
So when I saw him on screen and listening to his voice, I just felt like if Saturday Night Live were to do a skit about any of the wars happening today, his character of the Major would fit well into that skit. I'm going to give this movie, because of the performances, out of respect to David Johnson and Cooper Hoffman for their performances, and the movie, putting this movie together where the actors are delivering their lines, and I think 99% of the scenes they're in, they're delivering their lines while they're walking at what has to believably be 3 miles an hour. Okay, for that effort, I will give this movie 2.5 reels out of 5. And that's the Martini. Let me know what you think, and please subscribe to this channel, like this channel, and share it. And I will see you for the next film. Take care, guys.